Everybody likes some nice spells in Dark Souls. Blue particles, big damage, cool names. But what if they were the only option? Can you beat Dark Souls 3 with only sorcery? We have to create a character, and the sorcerer is the only one that starts with a damaging spell, so there isn't much choice. I got the life ring because it's marginally useful, and I created a pretty face that goes well with the class. There isn't much we can do at the beginning of the game. And we get the Ancient Estus, a new addition for the series that allows you to recover focus instead of health. Yes, the blue bar that allows you to cast spells is called focus and not like mana. Maybe in Japanese it sounds better, I don't know. We can lead the bonfire and run to the first fight. We start the first boss fight against Gundyr. This is a tense moment because even though the fight is easy, we might not have enough focus to defeat him. This is a problem that we will have for all the run, but we can't allocate more Ancient Estus for now. Thankfully this isn't the case, as we can kill him without even having to drink. Now we can jump up a tree and get one more Estus and the Silver Serpent ring, a ring that allows us to get more souls per enemy killed. We go to Lothric Wall. Here we only need the Estus Shard. We can't buy useful items from Greirat, so don't even bother saving him, we just have to unlock the shortcut and fight the boss. I have with me 3 standard Estus and 2 Ashen, because I didn't cash in the shard yet. This boss fight is an easy one, but since we don't have any upgrades for our stuff or our spells, it can be tough. Also, his hitboxes are pretty bad, so you can use that excuse if you die here. The best strategy is to keep your distance and only attack where there is a big opening. Our attacks deal a good amount of damage, but they are really slow. Being greedy doesn't help at all. I mean, case in point. I decide to think while I play, Vor dies, and we can proceed. After retrieving the banner, we can show it to the creepy monsters, and we reach the next area, Undead Settlement. Here we can rescue an NPC that sells us a couple of spells. Then we can take an Estus Shard, and if we are able to dodge a couple of arrows, we can take the Undead Bone Shard. It's crucial that we get a lot of well powered up Estus Flasks, since roughly half of our charges will be used for focus. We proceed and we meet an old friend. We will need to complete his quest since he gives us a Titanite slab near the end, so we fight a demon with him. It's pretty easy and we can find a decent armor and a Chloranthy ring. It's not nearly as good as in the original Dark Souls, but we will wear it until we find a better one. Make peace with the giant, we'll need it for later, plus he's a bro. Also, the guy we saved previously only sells spells that we already have or that we can't use, so leave him on the bridge. We can proceed in the Road of Sacrifices. The first section is useless, so we can simply run and ignore everybody until we find the bonfire. But now this area is really important. First of all, we can find the Heretic Staff here. It's one of the best staves in the game and the one I decided to use for this run. Fun fact, this staff is really long, so all soul sword spells have increased range. Then we can find some Titanite shards in order to power it up, and we can find the Sage's Ring. This ring lets us cast spells faster, and it works in a non-intuitive way. In this game, the more dexterity you have, the faster you cast, up to 50 dexterity. And this ring doesn't actually shorten the casting time, but simply gives you plus 30 virtual dexterity, that then you add to your real dexterity only to calculate your casting speed. And if your opinion is, don't care, didn't ask, plus it's math, then fair play to you. We can find an Estus Shard and the most important NPC for this run, Orbeck of Vinheim, that will teach us new spells. We meet him back at Firing Shrine, and we can already buy the spells that will do the heavy lifting in this run, Great Soul Arrow and Great Heavy Soul Arrow. They are simply better version of the Soul Arrows, but there aren't many more efficient spells in this game. From here, we go towards the Watchers of the Abyss. The intended route is through the Crystal Sage, but since he has an insane magic resistance, we'll deal with him as late as we can. In the swamp we have to extinguish the flames, and while we're here we can find some more useful items. An Estus Shard, an Undead Bone Shard and the Crown of Dusk. This headwear will boost our sorcery's damage by 10%, but has negative magic absorption, meaning that we take a lot more magic damage while wearing it. Nonetheless, it's worth it and we will remove it only for the boss fights that deal a lot of magic damage. Since we became friends with the giant previously, he will help us here by shooting arrows at the crab. Up here we can find some ashes that allow us to buy Titanite shards, so now we have a plus 3 weapon. But there is a very important step we need to do here. We have to get the Sage's Scroll and give it to Orbeck. Not because we will need the spells we can learn with this scroll, but because if we don't give him a scroll and we defeat the Abyss Watchers, he will simply leave. And we won't be able to learn endgame spells anymore, because nobody will show up in his place. Now we can go and defeat the Abyss Watchers. And as you can remember from the Pyromancy only run, because you watched it, right? they were a bit of a problem. But sorceries have such a long range that we can reasonably hit the boss without being in a huge danger. We obviously have to be patient with our attacks, but it isn't actually hard. In the second phase we have a bit more problems, mainly because he can dodge our attacks. Sometimes he dodges them in a row, sometimes he hits them without flinching. Oh yeah, and if we get hit by his charge attack, we get one-shot killed. After a couple of tries I managed to defeat him and we can proceed. There isn't much we need in the catacombs. We can jump down, kill the skeleton with the black hat in order to take the undead bone shard, and then we just have to sprint towards the bonfire, unlock the gate and go down the bridge. I decided to go in the smoldering glade first, because it's filled with large titanite shards. So we'll have a very good stuff very early in the game, but there are some more useful things here. First of all, we can take the Shield of Want, a shield that we are not able to use, but if we have it equipped, it will boost the Soul's Will of Pain by 20%. Then we can wait for the worm to die and get one undead bone shard. And from here we can reach the bonfire near the boss fight and get yet another bone shard. I decided to go and fight the boss. He has a good amount of HP, but he's really slow and basically cannot damage you if you're far away. But I didn't use my spell as efficiently as I could have, and I had to get out of the boss fight because I had no more focus, and thus no more damage. It wasn't that big of a deal, I simply got back with more Ashen Estus Flask and destroyed him. Easy souls. Now we can get back to the catacombs and go fight Wolnir. This boss fight is one of the easiest ever, there is no way you could die here. I hate this boss. I already confirmed that you can destroy his bracelets with pyromancy, so it should work with sorcery too. I brought with me Soul Greatsword because I think it's pretty easy to connect against him. As always, you just have to wait for him to stand still until you manage to destroy the bracelets. It's not difficult, it's just really annoying. We can't proceed any further here because we need to defeat the Deacons of the Deep first. So, time for the Crystal Sage, what I expected to be the biggest roadblock in the run. And I was right! This fight is a pain because he has an insane magic resistance. It takes roughly 40% less damage by all magic attacks. And not only that, but he is so weak to physical damage that he has a negative absorption and takes an average of 20% more damage if it's from a normal weapon. And since this is the kind of damage most people will do in the run, he's way off balance. In addition, his attacks are roughly the same speed as ours and have the same range, so we don't have a real advantage here. And when he goes into phase 2 and summons all his clones, we can't afford to take them down with spells, because it costs too much focus and we risk being hit. Not to mention that it is a ton of damage, and we have to use our Estus to regain focus and deal damage. First of all, I decided to not wear the Crown of Dust, because yes, the damage is useful, but taking a lot more damage isn't worth it. Then, I didn't know if defeating the clones made sense or not, because taking them down is certainly useful, but staying out in the open is risky, and most of the time I'll waste a lot of time carefully defeating them only to attack the sage once, because if he teleports away they spawn back in. But at the same time, fighting all of them together with my slow attacks doesn't work that well either. In case you're wondering, I decided not to beat them with the staff, because last time I checked, hitting someone in the head with a wooden staff isn't considered casting a spell. So I devised a strategy to win this fight. I noticed that if I attack him while standing near a pillar, most of the time his attacks will crash on the pillar itself. While I am able to damage him with my smaller soul arrows, sometimes his attacks connect with me, due to the fact that they curve a bit mid-air, and I am not always able to lock target on him, so I might have to free aim the spells, but this gives me protection to all the attacks from the clones on the other side of the pillar. It's not the best strategy or the most consistent one, but it works. I simply had to damage him phase 1, and that's easy. Then, as soon as he spawns, hide behind a pillar and defeat all the clones that would be able to attack me. Most of the time, 1 or 2 of them. And then I had to get lucky with how much he teleports and how often I get hit while in cover. But that's it. And after more time than I would have liked, I got my W and he died. At this point, since we already cleared all the other areas before going here, we're a bit overleveled and way over-equipped. And in general, if you don't see me showing much of the areas or the fights against normal enemies, it's because they are either really easy or I'm simply running past them full speed. I mean, see how these poor guys got annihilated. In this area there are some items we need and some things we have to do. First of all, there are the usual Estus Shard and Undead Bone Shard. But then there is an item that is really useful, but needs a bit of an explanation. previously I spent some time talking about casting speed and virtual dexterity, and there are actually two items in the game that allow you to cast faster, by giving you plus 99 virtual dexterity. They are a staff and a chime, what you use to cast miracles. Though, since they cast faster, they are balanced by not having a great spell buff, meaning you'll deal less damage if you cast spells with these. But they are useful because you can have one of these in one hand and a good staff in the other hand, and you'll still cast spell faster since they boost your virtual dexterity stat passively if equipped. This means that for the rest of the run you see me rocking this chime in one hand, and don't worry, I won't cast miracles since I don't have enough fate and they suck anyway in this game. Now I can proceed in the area and unlock some shortcuts. Here there are a lot of very aggressive enemies, but we can simply ignore them. There is a useful ring here that will let us deal 10% more damage if we are at full HP, and you can sort of cheese the giant by attacking during his wake up animation repeatedly. You don't need to kill him, but it's a good amount of souls, so why not? Further ahead I killed the second giant, unlocked yet another shortcut and went to meet Sigvard, that for some reason decided to lower me back to the main floor. Since I killed the second giant, he has a little extra dialogue while he shames me for getting rid of the giant. Now that we have met him, we can take a road onto the roofs that will lead us to the other side of the bridge we were trying to cross, where we can meet him again and buy Sigvard's armor in order to proceed with this quest. Also, if we want to respec, the Slag waifu is here. We find Sigvard stuck in a well, we throw him his armor, and now we can tackle the boss fight. The Deacons of the Deep is arguably one of the easiest boss fights in the game, and is usually pretty boring, since all you have to do is kill the possessed enemies first and the high rank priests later. But for this run it was a bit more interesting than usual, that's because I brought with me Soul Greatsword. So every time I attacked the boss I would also hit all the nearby enemies, and while it's true that they respawn infinitely, in this game there is a mechanic that refills you one use of your Estus every time you kill a certain number of enemies. If you play Dark Souls 1, it's basically how soft humanity works. So this fight became a grindy one, where I got my spells interrupted half the time I tried to cast, since I had to stop a spell they can do that will curse me over time. But I had almost unlimited Estus uses. All I'm saying is that for the first time this was actually a fun fight, but it's still easy and I defeated them on the first try. And with their death we get the small doll and we can proceed towards Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. A little tip if you are playing the game yourself, avoid being eaten. I mean, I guess you want to avoid it if you aren't playing too, but who am I to say? This area can be quite hard if you try to defeat the enemies, but we can use the power of feet to ignore them and travel bonfire to bonfire. We can sneak past the guards and behind an illusory wall we can find the magic clutch ring. With this equipped we will deal 20% more magic damage, but we will take 10% more damage. It's basically mandatory. Now though, we'll go to Irithyll dungeon first, since there lay our main spell upgrades. On the way we can get an undead bone shard, and we deviate a bit from the main road to meet Sigvard, in order to proceed with this quest. Also, it's a wonderful moment to rest a bit, have a drink and check your posture. Reinvigorated, we can proceed in the dungeon. This area is notoriously scary, and, since we take a long time to cast, if we try to fight the jailers they will almost certainly deplete most of our health. So, you guessed it, we run past them. Thankfully there are only a couple of items we need here. We have to fight 2 mimics, so if you have some undead hunter charms, you can put them to sleep. I forgot them, so I had to put them to sleep the violent way. The first one will give us an Estus shard, the second one will be in front of another chest. In the latter, the chest I mean, we can find the old Psyche that we actually need for Sigmayr's quest, and the Mimic will drop the Dark Clutch ring, that as you can guess works the same way as the Magic Clutch ring. There are only a couple of decent dark sorceries, but I took it anyway. Now we can unlock the shortcut and run past the jailers, and after this completely harmless and pointless bridge we can reach the profaned capital. Man... I went back there, properly avoided the gargoyle, and paid my respects to the best NPC Dark Souls 2 has ever seen. I guess I should make some videos on that game just to explain this reference. Here, instead of proceeding towards the boss, we go down and reach a toxic swamp. We jump down, avoid the enemies, and we have a magic show off against an aggressive NPC, that when killed will give us Logan's Scroll. Then we can jump in this window and we can find Siegward behind bars. We free him using the old cell key and he gives us a Titanite slab. His quest is now almost over, but that's not it for this area. We have to kill a couple of invisible enemies, then we can take the Jailer's key ring. And in a room near here we can get the Court Sorcerer's staff. It's the best staff if you aim to reach 60 intelligence. And, for a little bit of trivia, this in Italian is called Logan's staff, and since I think the game was translated directly from Japanese, I don't know if the English or Italian translators went rogue. Now that we have the keys we can kill all the jailers and free Carla. She will teach us 2 dark sorceries. They are useful if we run into a boss that has a high magic resistance. And we can give Logan's Scroll to Orbeck so that we can learn Soul Spear, one of the most iconic spells in the series. It's great against a group of enemies because it pierces through them and deals a good amount of damage, even though it costs a lot of focus. Now then we can get the best ring for this run. Behind this gate we can find the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring. With it our sorceries deal 20% more damage. It's then time for boss farming, and the first in line is Pontiff Sullivan. We have to unlock the shortcut first, but thanks to our Soul Spear this is pretty easy since everybody falls with one hit. And we enter the fight. Normally this fight can be tough because he is really aggressive and in the second phase summons a clone of himself. But at the beginning I was able to keep my distance and hit him hard. And, thanks to Soul Spear, I can kill his clone in one hit as soon as he summons it. He still deals a good amount of damage, but I pretty much destroyed him. Just ahead we have to defeat Adam Driver, and after that we can take the ashes that allow us to buy large Titanite shards, while dodging some arrows. I don't even bother fighting the knights, and after we take the best ring in the game, we can reach Einor Londo. Before completing this area, though, I decided to go back to the Profane Capital to deal with Yorm. And, since we completed Siegward's quest, we get a special cutscene with him crossing the fog with us. We need his help because this boss fight is a gimmick and you are supposed to pick up a weapon to win. And, obviously, it isn't a spell, so we can't use it. But for lore reasons, Sieg has one of his own, so he can deal damage to the boss. We still have to distract Yorm because Siegward alone can't win, but it's easy to do with our spells. And we didn't summon him, thus it's permitted, so don't whine in the comments. Wait, if I get a good interaction with the video it's good for YouTube. Please whine in the comments about how this is unfair. And now it's time for everybody's favorite part of Dark Souls 3. Yorm's Math! Would I be able to beat Yorm in my current state without Siegward and the proper weapon? We can clearly see that I deal 531 damage with one Soul Spear to the head. Hitting the body deals less damage, so let's assume I am good at the game and I can reliably hit his head. Yorm has 27,822 health points, so we can do a simple division and we see that I would have to hit 53 Soul Spears in order to win. Not the number you hope to see. But in this fight I discovered something I did not know. Sometimes I would stagger him with a spell and I would hit him for 3 times the damage. And I can connect with 2 spells with amplified damage before he gets up. The numbers are a bit inconsistent because Siegward is sometimes hit in 2, but 3 times is the correct amount. According to the wiki he is staggered after around 2000 damage, so we can assume that after 4 Soul Spears hit, he is knocked down. And since we can hit 2 more with amplified damage, it means that with 6 Soul Spears we deal damage equivalent to 10 Soul Spears, and this is way more manageable. With this newfound power we can calculate that if we needed the damage for 50 plus 3 spears before, now we only have to connect with 33 spears. 6 spears for every 10 we needed before, plus the remaining 3. Since with our current setup we can cast 4 spears per focus bar, we have to use 9 full bars, or 8 Ashen Estus and our starting bar. So it's doable, again assuming that you can do a perfect fight with only headshots and without needing regular Estus to heal. If you think that now I am going to beat him that way, you are wrong though. I may be a masochist, but everything has a limit. Everything has a price too, and here I will say that if, or when, I will reach 100,000 subscribers, I will do it. Maybe live on stream, who knows. So if you want to see it, you guessed it, like and subscribe so that it will take less time. While I was rambling, we won the fight, and I was going to celebrate, but due to the wounds he suffered in the fight, our good friend falls to the ground, dead. Sigvard, you watch the skies, I'll watch the neighborhood. Now that the emotional roller coaster is over, we can go back to Anor Londo, and since we don't need anything here, we can simply run up the cathedral, open the shortcut, and we can fight the cutest and at the same time worst looking Lord of Cinder in the game. Yeah, it's pretty specific, so what? He is resistant to magic, but since he resists to Dark 2, it's not like we have a choice in spells or builds. I was debating whether wearing the Crown of Dusk or not, because he mostly deals magic damage, but since I don't get one shot kill with the crown, I decided to keep it on. The fight is pretty long since it deals a lot of damage and it's not easy to find an opening. I always found this boss trivial, but this time it was a proper fight. And, after some trials, I managed not to be greedy and pierce his body with my spells for the final time. Since this is the third lord we defeat, we got teleported back to Lothric Castle. As soon as we talk to this NPC, she dies and we have to fight the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. But we can go away, get Arias back, and find that she didn't move from a spot. Oh well. We talk to her and the boss fight begins. The Dancer is a slow boss that can be killed easily from a distance, but if you find yourself cornered, she can still be scary, because it only takes one bad dodge to die. Thanks past me for demonstrating how this could happen. I didn't even talk about her biggest strength. When she gets close, my poor 80-year-old graphics card can't keep up with two buffed swords, so I get 14 FPS at best. But thankfully I'm used to it, and she falls to the ground. I decided to go back and eradicate the Curse Rotten Greatwood, because it gives you an item that allows to transpose boss souls, and I have a plan for later. This boss is a gimmick and maybe the jankiest fight in the game, but I am so overleveled that it isn't a problem. For now, I can make two sorceries, with the souls of the Crystal Sage and Aldrich, but they are so bad that I won't even bother showing them. It's time for Lothric Castle proper. This run thankfully is pretty easy regarding everything that isn't a boss. So first we can get the Estus Flask in the garden, and then we massacre some poor knights. This angel guy always scares me to death. Along the way we can get some Titanite chunks, and down this bridge we find an Estus Bone Shard. We proceed along the way, we have to carry on through the fire and flames, and then we can pretty much ignore all the enemies but the Puss controlling the dragon. Killing it will kill the dragon and we'll get more Titanite chunks. Then we can open the gate, and after some stairs we reach the boss. We can take the red Tearstone ring because you never know what the future holds. The Dragon Slayer armor, yeah, it's spelled the British way, is a boss fight that doesn't take much damage from our spells and has a good amount of HP, so we have to use our resources carefully. Sometimes he even raises his shield and pretty much takes no damage, even though you can clearly see the soul spear exiting his back, and the shield is supposedly of the same material as the armor itself, so I'm not sure how this works. Anyway, if you keep your distance, this shouldn't be a hard fight, and we can easily take it down. Oh, come on, what? I want to see a replay. Literally, worst game known to man. Or that attack has invincibility frames and I suck. I got back and showed no mercy, so we can proceed into the archives. In this area there are quite a bit of upgrades we can find, but we have to defeat another Crystal Sage. You may think that since we fought the first so long ago we will destroy this one. Yeah, that is not the case. After some painful deaths, I decided to take it slowly, clear the area from enemies, and the Sage started doing the strange teleport loop. I didn't want to cheese it, but I mean, he decided to do it. Who am I to say no? With his death, we obtain a Crystal Scroll that will allow us to learn Crystal Soul Spear, a stronger version of the beloved spell. But in this area we can also break an illusory wall and we find Soul Stream, a spell that is not as effective as it's cool, but it's so cool that we might even use it. Okay, I show it to you. Here we can consume all the souls we found, including boss souls, since there are no useful transpositions. And with that we can buy Crystal Soul Spear and reach a comfortable level 69. I swear it wasn't on purpose. Then I realized we need 48 intelligence in order to cast Crystal Soul Spear, so level 70 it is. Now we can get back to the archives and get the last Undead Bone Shard. On the roof we can show off our new spells against some volunteers. I won't lie, we deal an insane amount of damage. But don't worry because I'm going to get beaten to a pulp in a very short amount of time. You guessed it, you were waiting for it, it's time for the Twin Princes boss fight. Well, first we have to walk up some stairs, but then we have to face them. It felt cooler in Rocky. You actually have to do this every time you die against the bosses. There is like an elevator, but it takes roughly the same time. Don't get hasty, there's a couple more. When I first entered the fight, I was young and naive, and I didn't think this would be hard. I mean, sure, they deal a lot of damage, and it isn't an easy fight in a general standpoint. But I felt that my damage was good enough, and most importantly, since the second phase is the hard one and I had Crystal Soul Spear, a spell literally made to pierce through multiple enemies, I supposed I could hit both from the front. Well, turns out that Miyazaki and I have different opinions, because it doesn't work. And since we can clearly see the spell piercing through, I don't know if it's coded in the game on purpose, or it simply happens to be there because of the engine and nobody put much thought into it. What I'm sure about is that this is going to be painful. Because if before I had to hit around 10 soul spears for the big brother and 12 for the prince, now I have to kill the brother at least 2 times in the second phase if I want to win. Meaning that I either bring no healing Estus or I change approach, because these spells cost a lot of focus. I am not confident enough to do this damageless with attacks this low, so something has to change. At first I discovered that if I free aim a spell directly to the head of the prince, I can hit them both. But it's not reliable at all. I slammed my head on the wall for a bit, then I decided to go back to the dungeon and get the Duskaron ring. That lowers our HP by 15%, but our spells cost between 20 and 25% less focus to cast. It may sound crazy, but I needed spells, not HP. I ditched the ring that let me deal more damage if I am at full HP, because they had a lot of cheap damage so it wasn't working most of the time. Still, I wasn't able to win, because the fight took a long time and I only had a couple of heals, all because I can't hit them both. Then I thought, hey, maybe Soul Greatsword does the trick. I have to be near them, and it certainly is dangerous, but it has a wide swing and since it comes from the left, if I stand to the right it should hit the prince. Plus, again, it's meant to pierce through enemies, but it simply bounces off and only hits Lorian. No idea why. What I decided to do thanks to the last test is using Great Soul Arrow in the first phase, because it's a very efficient spell, meaning that it has a good ratio of damage over focus cost, and its casting time is relatively short. But phase 2 was the real problem, so I decided to take the matter in my own hands. If I attack from the back, I am guaranteed to hit Lothric, so I simply have to be at melee range and cast after a dodge that puts me behind them. Turns out my CQC skills aren't that good, and I got real close a couple of times, but I still got killed. Mainly because my spells are so slow that even if I do everything perfectly, they could decide to do a fast attack and hit me. At this point, someone could have stopped playing, some could have farmed some souls, and some could have left this for later. But I didn't hear no bell. I decided to take it slowly, be efficient, beat them where they lack knowledge, patience. Phase 1, keep your distance. Great Heavy Soul Arrow does enough damage, don't even have to manage the focus points. I can empty the bar to the last point, he falls to the ground. I am behind a pillar so they can't see me and they can be embered. Now the real fight begins. And at this point I can see the fabric of time, even if it's convoluted. I know what attack they're going to do even before they think about it. Arrow, arrow, dodge. The Elder Prince falls once, whip out the Crystal Soul Spear and unleash damage on the young one. Now he is back with less HP, so it's easier. Some attacks later, he is on the ground again. Time for the young prince. He is at half health, I am on the right path. Rinse and repeat. Third death. Last quarter of HP left for the young one, but I am almost out of resources. The elder brother dies again. I throw the last spears, but he survives. I am out of heals, I don't think I can kill Lorian another time, so there is only one thing I can do, get up close and personal. Solar Road, don't fail me now. But this isn't over yet. I still need some pieces of the puzzle. I decide to go back to the garden in order to fight the boss of this area, Oceiros. This fight is supposed to be hard since he has a good resistance to magic, but aside from the janky attacks that kill me once, I win easily. That's what I call a double kill. Sorry, no more lore jokes. We need to kill Oceiros for two reasons. The first is that with this soul we can make one of the best spells in the game, and that's the whole reason for defeating the Greatwood. But there is also an area behind this boss fight. We jump in the untended graves and we run to the end. We know this place pretty well since it's the same as the starting area, so I won't spend much time here. Also because I thought my graphics card was going to say goodbye at any moment now. Not to spoil the game or anything, but these huge black polygons aren't supposed to be here. We have to fight Gundyr once again, this time in his champion version. He can be a scary boss if fought with slow melee weapons, but we can keep a distance and our damage is insanely high. So after like 5 spears, he dies. We run into the dark version of Firelink Shrine, and behind an illusory wall we can find the Firekeeper's Eyes, an item needed to do the dark ending of the game. I don't know if you guessed it, but since we did one of the 3 endings in the Pyromancy only run, I am going to do a different and more fitting one here. Now we can give the eyes to the Firekeeper, we place the Cinders of the Lords, and we can fight the final boss, the Soul of Cinder. This is a very cool boss, both in looks and because he has different fighting styles that he switches between mid-fight. Too bad that our spell deal a huge amount of damage. The sorcery we got from Oceiros, White Dragon Breath, is the perfect point between focus cost, damage and casting speed. But it lacks in range, so I think I'll stick with Crystal Soul Spear. This is the final fight, so we can draw out some conclusions to make all the 5th grade teachers happy. The run was actually pretty fun, aside from the princes, and I would recommend you to try it. It's a different way to approach the game, and I think it's the best for seasoned veterans that have already beaten it multiple times. But frankly, it could work with everybody. That said, it wasn't that different from the Pyromancy only run, that I think you should watch if you didn't yet. The main differences were the upgrade path, as in where you can find the best spells and thus which sections were harder or easier. And with this final attack, I will say that you can beat Dark Souls 3 with only sorcery. If you did this challenge yourselves, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Well, you'll see me. See the video at least. Why do I always mess up the outro? Now we are done. So what's next? Sorcery is over. Pyromancy 2. Oh no. Oh god, no. Not the miracles, please. Not the miracles.